Good evening and welcome to tonight's City of Burnside Council meeting of July 16th, 2024. Please stand if you are able and remain silent during the acknowledgements. We acknowledge that the land we meet on today is the traditional land of the Kaurna people and that we respect their spiritual relationship with their country. We also acknowledge the Kaurna people as the original custodians of the Adelaide region and that their cultural and heritage beliefs are still important to the Kaurna people today. And we welcome other First Nations people to our meeting. On behalf of the City of Burnside, I gratefully acknowledge and pay respect to all those who have sacrificed their lives for this country and its people. We also consider in our thoughts all those who today are being affected by war around the globe, and especially those in Ukraine and the Middle East. We seek guidance in our debate as we make decisions that will impact on the lives of all who reside, study, work in or visit the City of Burnside. Grant us wisdom as we serve our community. Thank you. Please be seated. Just some reminders, since it's been a month, to not use your mobile phones, to turn off your microphone when you finish speaking and be respectful of the speaker so they can be heard appropriately. Now to the agenda. We have absences. We have an apology from Councillor Henschke. We also have an apology from our CEO who's not well, and we welcome Mr. Barry Cant in his place for tonight's meeting. Declaration of interest, you know to wait until the item comes on board before you make a declaration if necessary. Confirmation of minutes, I do need someone to move those minutes. Councillor Cornish, you're moving. Looking for a seconder. Councillor Wilkins. All those in favour? Against? Motion is carried. We do have, there's no questions for question time or adjourned business, but we do have one deputation this evening, and that deputation is from Mr. Adam Barker. So if you'd like to come forward, Mr. Barker, to the table, and I have explained to you how it works. And your 5 minutes starts once you start speaking. So your microphone's on, off you go.
Good evening, councillors. I'm here to address the significant impact of the current vacant land rate policy on families like mine who are genuinely building a family home. We've already invested over $100,000 in this endeavour. The current shortages in labour and construction materials are causing significant delays and cost increases in building a home are often beyond our control. The 250% increase in vacant land rates has not been well communicated to residents and was never intended to penalise families actively working to construct a house. I'd like to highlight three main points. The intent of the current policy. When the vacant land rate policy was introduced about 6 years ago, its primary intent was to penalise developers who engage in land banking, not families who are genuinely building their homes. The policy was meant to discourage developers from holding onto vacant land without any immediate plans for construction, thereby promoting the utilisation of available land. Point number two, the need for a grace period. There should be a grace period to allow people enough time to build without being penalised. The City of Campbelltown has recently introduced a vacant land policy and with that policy provides a 2-year grace period for owners to construct a house before the increased vacant land rate is applied. This approach acknowledges the complexities and potential delays in the construction process and offers a reasonable time frame for completion. Point number three, poor communication with ratepayers. The communication from the council to ratepayers about the vacant land rate policy is poor. It is neither well communicated nor advertised. A dedicated page on the Burnside Council website should be created to inform the community about the vacant land policy and how it may affect them, especially if they decide to demolish their home. Clear and accessible information is crucial to help residents understand and navigate the policy. In conclusion, I urge the council to consider adopting a similar grace period to support families like mine who are striving to build their homes. Additionally, improving communication about the policy will ensure residents are better informed and prepared. Adjusting the policy to better align with the original intent and enhancing transparency would alleviate unnecessary financial strain on residents genuinely working to complete their homes. Given the investment in building our home, I am asking for the members of the council to support a rates rebate for the building of our family home. Many thanks to Matthew Spearman for taking the time to meet on site and listen to my position, and specifically to Councillor Jones for all his guidance and support. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone who has a question of the Deputy? Councillor Davey.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you very much for coming along tonight. I didn't hear where you live, sorry.
Oh, sorry, in Linden Park. I forgot to say
Linden
that.
Park, sorry. And how long have you lived there?
In the suburb, about 4 years, I think, 5 years. In Linden Park.
And are you living, have you demolished the house on the block?
I'm renting, we've demolished the house, trying to be proactive to build, so I demolished the house and we're renting around the corner.
Thanks.
Councillor Dawes.
Adam over here. Now, just want to understand, you demolished, and there's been so many emails about this, so I might have it wrong, October 2022, is that correct?
Around about that time, correct, yeah.
Right, so that the rates you paid in 22-23 were normal rates, or when did the 250% apply? Was it from July 2023?
It was the last rates bill that I received. So the one that's currently outstanding, I think it would be that year, I believe. Not the one that, it's been about, I don't know, yeah, about 12 months ago, so would that be correct? Yeah,
Oh.
correct.
And so you demolished in October 2022. Did you have a contract with, I think it was Lars Homes, I can't remember which one it was.
We with an architect initially, Prosky Architects, and that took an extended period because I can go into all the detail if you like, but we've got two very big trees we're trying to protect that we love, and they'd used a very strange foundation called strip pier foundations, which we weren't aware of during the design process, and that was very expensive, over $500,000 in foundations. And this wasn't clear until we went through the whole design, engineering, tender process, and right at the end of the tender process, when we had these plus $1 million over our budget cost to build the home, I then found out it was this strip pier type foundation. So I was quite lost at that point, not knowing what to do. Then we approached Lars Homes and said, what can we do? Can you build us a house? And they said, yeah, instead of using this complex system, let's raise the level to this height, fill it in with dirt, and then we won't disturb the roots. So,
Can I have one last question? I might have asked two in a row.
That's fine, there's no one else on the
Okay.
screen.
So when you demolished in October 2022, you did not have a fixed contract to build your new home. Is that a true statement?
that would be true because we were still with the architect at that point, getting the plans done, going to tender, and we wouldn't sign a building contract until it was within budget.
Thank you.
Councillor Davey.
Thank you. Yes, I just have a couple of follow-up questions. Have you built in Burnside before?
No.
Right. And this is a family home or a duplex or
Single story,
subdivisions?
single story, single allotment, family home.
Thank you.
Councillor Jones.
So, Adam, I think we first met in about 2020
Yeah,
when we were both campaigning for the Laurel Avenue Community Garden.
correct.
So you bought this house from a deceased estate, I understand?
I believe it was, yeah.
And so the question is, was it livable to move into?
I would probably have lived into it, but my wife, it was not very nice. So as a single man, probably would have, but as a family, no.
And so you could have just left it derelict
Absolutely.
and empty.
Absolutely.
What did anybody from the council say, oh mate, whatever you do, don't demolish it because then you'll get this vacant land?
The opposite, in fact. So what I did was I rang the council and I said I'd like to demolish my home, and they said go ahead. And I said I probably should get it in writing because I was a bit concerned. So I emailed the council and I said, can you please put it in writing that I can demolish the home? And promptly they responded and said yes, go ahead, you can demolish the home. And they sent me a link to the development guide, which was very handy. At that time, it would have been absolutely prudent to say to me, by the way, should you demolish the home, you would be, the vacant land tax would have been applied. When I received my rates notice, whatever time it was in 23, I thought it was a mistake. I thought the council had just made a mistake, and I called the council and said, there's something wrong with my rates. This is, much higher than it should be. And that's when someone explained to me what the vacant land rate variance was. So up until that point, I had no idea. So if I had known, I would never have touched the house. The intent here is to try and make people build quicker. By demolishing the house, I was trying to be proactive and get ahead of the game rather than wait for my builders to do so. That was my intent. Thanks.
Councillor Cornish.
Thanks for coming in and thanks for answering all these very important questions. I also asked a number of questions of administration, and I was quite astounded the fact that the property value or the valuation of your place has gone up without a home on it compared to when it had a home on it. Had you thought about asking the Valuer General to revalue the vacant land? No. No, I don't plan on selling. I want to build a house. Oh, no, this is so, obviously property values determines rates and, electricity bills, etc., and water bills. And with any valuation that is done by the state government, you've got the opportunity to challenge that valuation and they can reevaluate it. I was just surprised to see that when there was a house on it, it was worth less than what it is right now with no house on it at all. And whether or not they've actually got the valuation correct for a vacant block of land.
That's a good point that you make. I think property, obviously, everything's so expensive these days, so the land would be worth a lot. Since I couldn't afford to buy that block if I had to buy it now.
If there are no other questions, then thank you very much, Mr. Barker, for coming
Thanks
in.
very much.
And you will be able to watch it at home at your leisure. Yes, just turn that. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming in. Now I will go through the reports and see who wishes to withdraw them for debate. The first one being 11.1, community grant funding. I have no one on the screen, so is there someone who's willing to move that? Councillor Dawes. Moving it, and seconded by Councillor Davey.
I was pulling it.
Well, your
Sorry.
first name, I had actually asked already, we'd already gone past the pulling
At which
it.
point I pressed for withdrawal.
No, I had Councillor Dawes indicate first on the screen to move the motion.
Okay, I'm not seconding it. Thanks.
Sorry, so you're not seconding it? Is there anyone who's willing to second it then? Could you please turn your microphone off? Is there a seconder? Right, there's no second. Councillor Cornish.
I'm happy to second
Happy to second the motion, all right. All those in, sorry, then I will, Councillor Dawes, do you wish? No, we just have to go straight through the next one. Okay, so it's Dawes.
You have to put it to the vote.
Oh, yes, sorry, of course. Okay, no, it has not been withdrawn for debate. It has been moved and it has been seconded, and now we are voting on it. Those in fact, no, not if it's not withdrawn. It is moved and seconded, then we vote on it straight away. It has been moved, it has been seconded, and we are now voting on it. So those in favour...
We go through and pull.
No, we don't, councillor.
I wish to
We
speak
go through one at a time.
on the motion.
The motion has been put. The motion has been seconded. We now vote on that motion. Those in favour.
What motion are we putting that we're voting on, please?
Motion 11.1, which is on page 6, endorses the community grant funding, notes the acquittal status and endorses unallocated community grant funds to be returned to budget savings. That's the motion.
I wish to speak to it, please.
We go ahead with a vote. If it fails, then we bring it back.
That's what I would like to say. I hope people vote it down so that we can actually debate this motion. Thank you.
Right, I'm now putting it, Councillor Wilkins, can you just turn your mic off, please?
I just want to declare a conflict of interest, if I may,
Yes?
in this particular motion, because I'm a board member of the National Trust of South Australia, but I believe I have no perceived nor material conflict of interest in this matter. and I will intend to vote.
Okay, thank you. Now, I'm putting it to the vote. Those in favour of the motion as it stands? Those against? Right, then the motion is now withdrawn for, and now I ask again for someone who wished, Councillor Davey, you wished to withdraw it for debate.
Thank you.
Now the draft bicycle network plan. Again, I'm waiting a long time. I need to know if someone wishes to withdraw it. Councillor Cornish.
I'm happy to move it.
You're moving the motion?
Thank you.
Seconded by Councillor Zing. Right, all those in favour? Against? The motion is carried. City Development and Safety Policy Review. I'm looking for a mover. Councillor Zing, are you moving it?
Happy to move, Mayor.
Right, and seconded Councillor Cornish. All
Yes.
those in favour? Against? Carried. The Dog and Cat Management Plan. Councillor Hallett, you wish to withdraw it?
Yes, please.
And, okay, so that's Hallett. Call for nominations for Garrock members. Councillor Cornish, you wish to withdraw it?
Thank you.
Call for nominations for the LGA President. Also Councillor Cornish.
Thank you.
Mayor's Activity Report. Seek a mover. Councillor Hallett. Seconded Councillor Cornish. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Chief Executive's Report. Councillor Harvey, you wish to withdraw it?
Yes,
And
thank you.
Councillor, okay. Now we go back to the 11.1, Councillor Davey.
Thank you, Mayor. I wish to move an alternative motion to this one. And I'm afraid because I didn't have my system up today, I will read it through. It is an amended motion to the recommendation, and it reads that 1, Council endorses the following community grant allocations for 24-25. Chapel Street Community Garden, $750. Conningham Street Community Children's Centre, $5,000. Friends of Cleveland National Park, $1,000. Glenunga Rams Basketball Club, $3,800. The Gold Foundation Inc., $5,000. Zonta Adelaide Torrens, $750. 2, notes the acquittal status for the 2023-24 Community Grants Program. 3, endorses unallocated 24-25 Community Grants funds to be returned as budget savings. And 4, reviews the terms of reference and capacity of community funding programs to ensure they are appropriate for the current financial circumstances and with the service review pending. So while that comes up on the board, I'll start my speech. Thank you.
Councillor Davey, do you have that written down that we can share with the minute taker?
Sorry, I didn't have a chance to
No, that's okay.
send them.
Do you have it written down that we can just copy, or you'll have to read it again and
They'll
we will
have-
just...
No, I haven't, because it's in the midst of another.
Okay.
I
So
don't-
if you can read it again slowly, the minute taker will be able to
Okay.
keep up with you. Thank you.
Sorry, I thought they were doing this while I was reading it out before. In 1, so it's that Council 1 endorses the following community grant allocations for 2024-25. Chapel Street Community Garden, $750. Conningham Street Community Children's Centre, $5,000. Friends of Cleveland National Park, $1,000. Glenunga Rams Basketball Club, $3,800. The Gold Foundation Inc., $5,000. Zonta Adelaide Torrens, $750. And then 2 is the same as in the previous motion. And 3 is the same. And then 4 is reviews the terms of reference and capacity of community funding programs to ensure they are appropriate for the current financial circumstances and in light of our service review. Is that all in hand?
We are just typing up just now, so we'll bring it on the screen in 1 second and we will confirm with you.
I'm sorry I wasn't able to send this around before the meeting today, but as I said, my system was giving me problems and I wasn't able to circulate it. Perhaps you could list them just on a single line for the number 1 so that people can see them. So after grant allocations for 2020, after the financial year, put Chapel Street on a new line. That's right, and then Conningham Street. And then Friends of Cleveland National Park. And then Glenunga Rams. And then the Gold Foundation Inc. And then Zonta Adelaide Torrens. Thank you, and that's very clear then. No, it's the acquittals day. So thank you very much. I think with all the budget constraints we've had and the reduction in funding that we agreed in the last budget, it's timely that we reduce our expenditure on community funding and community grants and quick response grants. We have, as I said, agreed to reduce spending in our budget determination for the 24-25 financial year. I believe this, in terms of our risk appetite, I think we can do, well, it's important in terms of we're allocating our financial risk that we look at all of these aspects, as well as our community expectations. While we are working hard to retain and contain our expenditure, this includes containing the nice-to-haves. And I think supporting card tables for bridge, street parties in wealthy suburbs, Probus bus trips, mosaics creation, spooky Halloween parties, street art, and the wealthy Toorak Bowling Club programs, I don't think they're included and what we should be funding at this stage with all the constraints we've got. The projects I've listed are supportive of broader community actions and widely supported in the community, such as breast surgery, support pillows, little athletics activities, children's centre placemaking, the Chapel Street Community Garden, which has worked very hard to establish itself, and gender-inclusive basketball programs. So to my calculations, these projects total $21,100 out of a budget of $45,000, thus saving us $22,900, which can then be returned as budget savings. So I think it's timely, as I said, that we undertake a service review across the City of Burnside. And as we do this, we review the whole community grants, quick response grants and sponsorships, which have been allocated $82,000 in this year. So I think if we allow this $21,000 expenditure, that's not expending the full amount. It is dealing with some expectations, But I think there are some, as I've outlined, some grants allocations that are nice to haves but not really necessary to have. So I hope you'll second this and support this motion. Thank you.
Councillor Hallett, you're on the screen. Are you seconding this?
No.
Right. Could you just turn your microphone off then, please? Councillor Turnbull, you're seconding it.
Yes, thank you.
Are you wish to speak
Yeah,
now?
I'll speak now, thank you. It's a bit awkward. I was a member of the Community Grants Committee, which was of 3 of us. Our job was to sort and agree on which projects should be funded with financial grants. At this time, the furore over the proposed rate increase hadn't hit the fan. When it did, I realised that many of these community grant projects could be put on hold. Quite a few were the same groups as last year and the year before, asking again for financial support. In the cold, hard light of the rates disquiet, it was obvious that most of these asks and wants could be deferred. Deferred, like councillors have had to do with our projects and our wards for 2 years in a row. So I'll be supporting Councillor Davies' sensible compromise. Of the 6 selected projects in this motion, they were the exact 6 which I thought had merit and would benefit the community and not just select groups. There's no way council can justify $1,000 for sweets and lollies for a Halloween event. You can't tell the ratepayers that after all this. My maths might be a bit different, but the listed projects would cost $16,300. The money not spent, the $21,107, can be returned to the council coffers. We're into saving money. Let's not just put it out on bus trips and things like that people can actually afford themselves. So I thank you, Councillor Davey, for this revised motion. I definitely support the compromise and the savings and sincerely hope that you do too. Thank you.
Councillor Hart.
Thank you, Mayor. I too would also like to thank Councillor Davey for this amendment. Just last month, Council voted on a rate rise to 9.8%, and subsequently we managed to remove $1 million of spending, which was great in our budget. Yet here we are now wanting to spend our ratepayers' money on community grants on the likes of funded monthly bus trips, including to Mannum, costing $2,500, a street party costing $1,500. As Councillor Turnbull mentioned, $1,000 on lollies for a Halloween party. This is only naming a few of these approved grants totalling nearly $40,000. Is this not a slap in the face to our ratepayers? What message is this sending to our residents when we are trying to help save on costs? Residents clearly are fed up with frivolous council spending, and this is certainly one of them. They have told us that, emailed us, phoned us, expressing their angst to this nonsense spending. Councillor Davies' amendment in this case eliminates $21,000 of ratepayers' money. A review of this community grants spending program needs addressing. If this is to continue, it needs to benefit more of the community, not just the same selected few. I, for one, would very much enjoy a bus trip to Mannum for the day, fully funded by council, as I'm sure most members of the community would too. This flippant spending of ratepayers' money up to $40,000 a year is untenable. The spend has to stop. I hope you will think so too and support this motion. Thank you.
Councillor Dawes.
Yeah, just a question for administration, first of all. At that special council meeting, we were handed a sheet, or sheets, which indicated which areas of the budget we would like to remove. And I haven't got it with me, unfortunately, tonight. Can you tell me how many votes did the community grants receive for it to be removed? It was in a PowerPoint presentation.
Through your worship, bear with me while I ask the team to provide that information. I'm happy to take more questions around, but we will see if we can find that information.
Is there anyone in the meantime, while we're waiting, wish to speak? Councillor Zing.
Just a question as well, Mayor. If I was to add in or subtract, this one will need to get defeated first, correct, before I can add new projects? This motion would have to fall, because it wouldn't be a variation.
Through your worship, that's correct.
Councillor Cornish.
Your worship, I can't support this motion as it stands. I'm happy to do a cut, but I think the process of it has gone about the wrong way. I have not gone through all these applications, and right now it's come to the council to pick and choose, and not to the panel that we actually endorsed, to actually read and review the applications and make that determination and come to council. And now we're changing it in this chamber on the fly. I would have much preferred us to go back and say, we're setting the panel a new limit of $15,000, come back to us with a revised recommendation list. That would have been a much more appropriate way of going about it. Otherwise, I could quite easily pull a Regulation 13 and ask for every single application to be presented to all of us, so we have to read it before we can move on this motion tonight, because I don't think I've got the ideas. I don't know why we're picking Gold Farm Incorporated or Glenunga Rams. Which Rams is that? Is that football club? Is that basketball club? Like, there is some stuff in this motion that I just don't understand why we're picking and choosing these, and what the rationale is going back to everyone else that's applied, seeing that they've been recommended, and then all of a sudden it's because the council, someone in council, who on council is picking and choosing this? Is it just Councillor Davey and Councillor Turnbull that are picking these ones, and they've agreed to come to this chamber with them? I think it's a much better idea if we'd actually set a lower limit and gone back to the committee and asked them to come back to us. So I can't endorse this motion as it stands. There's just too many holes in it for me.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Councillor Jones.
Can I ask a question? Yes. So the officer's recommendation was defeated. If this motion is defeated, is that it? It's just done. We're done. Nothing happens. No, the original motion's been defeated. Councillor Dawes moved the officer's recommendation and it lost. Can't go back to it.
I'll confirm that in a second. However, I believe you're referring to when a rescission motion is lost, that you can't revisit it. You can't.
Councillor Dawes has moved the officer's recommendation.
And
that lost.
The motion can go again.
What, you can move exactly the same motion that's already lost?
That's correct.
That's ridiculous.
Through your worship, it's only a rescission motion that you are not allowed to retest within a 12-month period.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying tonight.
You can.
Under what section?
We will check the meeting code of practice.
We haven't even voted. I haven't spoken again.
But we're waiting for an answer, so we might as well.
There was a question asked, and we're waiting for an answer for that question. In the meantime, Councillor Jennings, do you wish to speak?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Saving money, yes, but look, in my community work, I'd often go from local governments to state governments and city councils asking for funds for not-for-profit groups to run events, and it is hard work. It's not like they don't have their checkbooks ready to just give you money. You have to convince very intelligent, sometimes people with tight purse strings. So I think we're skipping the due diligence that needs to be attended to this, and I'm with Councillor Cornish saying that we're going the wrong way about this. So I'll see how this goes. Thank you.
You got it?
Through your worship, thank you for your patience. I've got two responses. Firstly, to Councillor Dawes' question, 6 people voted to remove the community grants. which was 45,000 from the CM survey that was done previously, and referring to your adopted code of practice, your procedures at meetings, and the clarification under section 24, 22 and 24, 23 and 24. If a motion is lost, no decision has been made. There is nothing to stop that same motion being raised again and voted on.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? If there's no, Councillor Dawes.
Yes, this is totally unexpected, I have to say. I was a member of the panel proxying for Councillor Wilkins, and we did go through the 19 applications, and a number of them were reduced. I will pick up one thing. It isn't, I'm just trying to think which one it was now. It was the National Trust. It wasn't $1,000 for lollies. I have to indicate it was for a whole range of things, and so we've got to be careful when we say these things, because members of the council and residents are listening to this. But we did go through them very, very carefully. There are some, as Councillor Turnbull has said, that have applied for funding on more than 2 occasions, and it was discussed that yes, we need to inform those organisations that we're not always there to hand out money, but they were fair and reasonable applications in accordance with the criteria that were established for the community grants. So even though we might have differences of opinion in the panel as to which ones we should support, it was by majority vote and sometimes unanimous vote that we would support some of these. But to only support 6, and I do agree with Councillor Cornish, it seems as though these are the 6, where I could pick some others there. I'd like to see Linden Park included, for instance. That's not there, and others. So, but everybody's got their own favourites here. But as Councillor Cornish said, we elected a panel. The panel has made a call, and I think that we have been very careful with how much money has been allocated for each of those 17 applications. It is a saving of 16,000, I want to tell you. It's 21,000 for the 6 only that Councillor Davey has put in place. It was 37,000 that's before you tonight. So it's a saving of 16,000, not 24,000, whatever the figure is. But I personally believe we should support it. The panel's gone through it very carefully. And perhaps the following year we need to make these calls, not on the spur of the moment as it is tonight.
Councillor Hallett.
Thank you. I don't disagree with reducing the amount to be distributed within the grants program. I'd probably, if that came to council, I'd probably accept it. But I agree with Councillor Cornish that the process
the criteria for the selection and for the acceptance of any applications is clearly set for the committee. We have a set of rules that apply to every single grant request. We abide by those rules. We also take recommendations from the staff as to which ones, based on their experience with those groups in the past or current issues that they may have, then the committee took advice on all of those, each and every one of them, before any recommendations were made. And as Councillor Dawes said, some were reduced, as he had said, because the committee discussed it, debated it, and made a decision. That's what the committee was there for. Now, Councillor Davey, you have a question?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I do. Could you, through you to the CEO, tell us how much the Linden Park, how much in grants the Linden Park Community Garden has received in the past? It is number of the attachment. 12. Number 12 on the attachment. Page 18. I know they have received grants in the past, and I'd just like to know how much. I think they've received a lot of money from the City of Burnside.
Through the worship, I'm just checking with the team to see if we have that information. I'll ask Ms Portolero.
Through the Chair, in 23-24 financial year, they received $906 through a community grant, and in 23-22, they received $652 through a community grant as well. That's all that we're aware of at this stage.
Sorry, I didn't hear that. For what purpose?
In 23-24, they received $906 for equipment. In 23 and 22 financial year, they received $652 for equipment also.
Councillor Jones, another question, or do you wish to speak?
No, I think I'm going to speak. Look, I get the fact that the committee made these decisions in good faith at the time, but that was before we knew we were millions of dollars in deficit this year.
Can I just interrupt and correct that? Actually not correct. That was actually debated at the time. It was actually brought up by Councillor Turnbull during our meeting as to whether or not we should reduce the amount because of the financial situation.
When was your meeting?
About 6 weeks ago.
And when was the budget decided?
But the point I'm making is that the budget had not been decided, but at the time, the motion was for 14%.
So at 14%, this was fully funded. The fact is, it's now not funded. So I think we have to take the feedback from the community. Look, I wanted a rates increase of 14%. I wanted to spend all the money, but people have said, no, we're not going to do it. We're just going to go into debt, and we can't keep going into debt. People have said, stick to the knitting. That's repeatedly what people have said. And I think there's a lot of things on this list that is not knitting and needs to go. Look, if it was up to me, I'd scrap it all, but I'm happy to accept Councillor Davies' reasonable compromise, and so reluctantly I'll support her motion.
Councillor Harvey, you have a question?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Mayor. Are you on the decision panel for this community grant?
I was a committee member.
And who else is on the...
Councillor Turnbull and Councillor Dawes, and Councillor Dawes was substituting for Councillor Wilkins because she was unavailable.
Thank you. I also have another question. On page 18, under National Trust of SA, does it actually have the words there, sweets and lollies, which I was referring to in my speech?
What it does say is consumables for the event may include the following.
But it does have the words sweets and lollies.
They are there, but they
Yes,
are not
thank
the
you.
only item that was mentioned nor discussed. All right, is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Councillor Cornish, you have a question?
I do have a question. Were the applications to all these requests circulated to any elected member that wasn't a part of the panel?
The answer is no, because it was placed in the hands of the trust was placed in the hands of the duly elected committee to make these decisions. Sorry, no, we did make decisions, because we made decisions to reduce the numbers on some of them. So we made decisions that would then come as a recommendation to council. Sorry, now Councillor Davey, you can sum up.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you all for your contributions and questions. I want to acknowledge the work of the committee and thank them for their consideration of the document and for their recommendations to council as the decision-making body of the City of Burnside. I'll just go through a couple of the, some of the organisations that, because people don't have rationalisation. I really don't think the Probus Club needing 4 card tables is a really rational expenditure for a cash-strapped council. I think a writers group publishing 100 copies of a book isn't a good use of council funds. I think the Chapel Street Community Garden, a hard-working group of residents who work very hard and want to develop a children's community garden pilot project, is reasonable expenditure of money. The Conningham Street Community Centre, also supporting Children's Centre placemaking project, it's very worthwhile. The Czechs Film Festival, I don't think we need to fund that. The East Residents Association for a street party is just over the top. I think that's unbelievable that they would be funding, we would be funding such a wealthy group that money. Eastern District's Little Athletics, line marking to help the children's athletics, I think that's absolutely valuable. Environs Club at Glenside, Banksia Park understory project, I think that's, yes, all right. Banksia Park, I don't know even where that is, and I don't see it, I think it's private property, but I don't think we should be funding that. Friends of Cleveland National Park is absolutely worthwhile community effort with continuing weed control. Glen Osmond Probus bus trip, that's not really necessary. Glenunga Rams to develop gender-specific marketing material and encouraging a welcoming environment for girls to get them into sport. Very worthwhile project. Linden Park Community Association, they've already had heaps of support from council. They've already had 2 grants, and I think they're also a very wealthy community garden centre who could be raising funds and doing a lot of the work themselves. Mums and Bubs groups are funded all the time. The National Trust Halloween trail is over the top, unreasonable. SA Mosaics, I think that's unreasonable. Botanica Grace, Banksia Street again at Cedarwood, over the top. The Gold Foundation is a program for young autistic people, very worthwhile, an inclusive hospitality program, I recommend that. Toorak Burnside Bowling Club, not necessary. And then Zonta, they do wonderful work for the community. I rest my case. I hope you will support them and support the fact that we review this whole process and the capacity to fund these as we go for. We've actually missed out.
Councillor Davey, the time has gone already over.
I've just realised that we didn't put in before we leave, for the service review. The current financial service review is what should be the last words on the motion.
So replace statements with service review?
To ensure they review the terms of reference to the panel and the capacity of funding programs to ensure that they fit our the current services review, capital S and R, not financial, but it's our services review that we promised in the budget. So hopefully you'll support this. Thank you.
I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? 2, 3, 4, 5. I thought I counted 5 twice.
It's 5-all.
But you can't have, we've got an odd number. Sorry?
Hugo's not here.
Oh, Hubel's not here, okay. So the casting vote.
You get the casting.
I have the casting vote. Since we have been through a very lengthy process to get this far, I am going to vote against this motion because I think you even left out Little Athletics that you mentioned that was supposed to be on your list. So I'm not going to support this motion at all. The motion is lost. And division has been called. So those who are voted for, please raise your hands. Councillor Jones, Councillor Wilkins, Councillor Davey, Councillor Harvey and Councillor Turnbull. Those for were Councillor Zing, Councillor Jennings, Councillor Dawes, Councillor Cornish, Councillor, I want to say Henschke, Councillor Hallett and Mayor Monceau. That was against, sorry, against, apologies. So therefore the motion is lost and we revert back to the original motion that was put forward. Or if someone has another alternative. Councillor Cornish.
In sensing the room, I'm wondering whether or not we send it back to the committee with a reduced budget.
That's your option to run that motion if that's what you want to do.
No, I'll move the officer's recommendation. Thanks.
Do you wish to speak to it now?
No, I won't, thank you.
Okay. Councillor Dawes?
I'll second
it. Do you wish to speak now or
No,
later?
no.
Is it Councillor Davey?
Could we see the motion, please?
It's on page 6.
Could I move a variation? Add number 4. Number 4, reviews the terms of reference and capacity of community funding programs.
Keep going.
It's not coming up.
It takes a little time.
I'll have to read it out again while she's... Funding programs to ensure they are appropriate. For the current financial circumstances. And in view of the services review.
Councillor Davey, can I just...
No, I'm going to wait till it's to see it all up because I missed out last time. There was a mistake.
So what I'm about to say, it's up there just now. Instead of terms of reference, are you comfortable with guidelines for the panel?
No, I prefer terms of reference, the whole terms of reference.
My understanding is we don't have terms of reference for this particular project. There's guidelines for the panel.
I see. I beg your pardon then. Okay, I'll accept that. And could we have, in view of the services review, in capital S, capital R? It's the COB service review that we're undertaking as a result of the budget. So it's got its own status. Why does it take so long? Thank you.
Through your worship, just a reminder when we're doing this, the system, we have to make the changes offline. we then have to press enter for it to show, so it's not a live document as we're typing. We type in the background, then we have to press enter to allow you to do it. So if you could just give some time for them to do that, that's appreciated.
It's a significant disadvantage when you're thinking about what to say, and then when there's an error like there was in the last one, if we don't see it right up front, it is a significant disadvantage to us debating around the chamber.
So what we will do is commit to you that before you commence your discussion, you'll be happy with the motion as you're presenting it,
Thank you.
and then we'll proceed.
So I've asked for a variation, so if I don't know if others are happy to support that.
So variation has been confirmed. Are you happy with that?
I'm happy to accept the variation given the fact that we actually received an action documentation to actually review the grants funding policy, and the feedback's due tomorrow anyway.
Correct.
So on that, so I'm happy to accept that.
And the seconder was Councillor Dawes. Are you happy with that as well? All right, thank you. All right, Councillor Davey, unfortunately your mic's on, so I'm not sure if anyone at home heard any of that. Councillor Jones, you wish to speak?
Yes, I'm going to speak against this motion. Look, what can I say? All the people who kept going on about cost of living pressures and how we couldn't put rates up want to spend ratepayers' money on street parties and lollies. You couldn't make it up. This is just a total waste of money. Is there a cost of living crisis for ratepayers that means we can't charge them the rates we need to pay for the services? Or isn't there? Can you make your mind up? Because we are just going to be the laughing stock of talkback radio in Adelaide, if not Australia, when news of this leaks, as inevitably it will. And people are going to be saying 9.8% rate increase to pay for lollies and street parties. And you voted for it. It is frankly incredible that you would be so irresponsible with other people's money. So I'm going to have to vote against this motion, and I hope you will too.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Sorry. Right, then I shall go back to Councillor Cornish. You want to put the motion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? The motion is carried. Division's been called, so those who voted for, please keep your hands up. That's Councillor Councillor Hallett, Councillor Cornish, Councillor Dawes, Councillor Jennings, Councillor Wilkins and Councillor Zing. Those against were, keep your hands up please, those against were Councillor Davey, Councillor Jones, Councillor Turnbull and Councillor Harvey. Thank you. Now we shall move to item number 11.4, Councillor Hallett. Thank you, Councillor Cornish.
I want to ask someone to do that.
Have you got your mic on? I can't
Yeah,
see
I
it
have.
through the screen, that's all.
I have got it on. I was just going to ask if I wanted to move. Oh, it is on the screen. Thank you. I wanted to move in addition to the recommendation. So basically, the first two recommendations are as written, as in the report, but to add a third recommendation that says conducts an information or briefing session on establishing a CAP management bylaw and possible criteria to be included and potential cost implications. So it conducts a information or briefing session on establishing a CAP management bylaw and possible criteria to be included and potential cost implications. And I reserve my right to speak.
You can't when you're moving.
Because I'm sick. Okay,
You have to justify or explain why you have moved this alternative motion.
Well, basically, what I want to say about it is that I really want to just present the members with some statistics. But cats kill over 1.5 billion native mammals, birds, reptiles and frogs, and 1.1 billion invertebrates every year in Australia. Feral and cat predation occurs in a number of ways, including through direct predation of individual animals, competitive exclusion and disease transmission. Our mammals and fauna have suffered the most substantial decline of any fauna group. Feral cats and foxes are identified as the greatest threat, along with changed fire regimes. The Australian Government's threat abatement plan for predation by feral cats advises that feral cats are recognised as a potential threat to 74 mammal species and subspecies, 40 birds, 21 reptiles, and 4 amphetamines. The collective toll of Australian animals killed per year by all feral cats, including owned stray cats but excluding pet cats in Australia, is, as I said, 1.1 billion vertebrates, 40 million frogs, 600 million reptiles, 320 million birds and 960 million mammals. It's widely accepted that controlling feral cats nonetheless will provide significant benefits to Australia's threatened and endangered species. In terms of pet cats, research has concluded that collectively pet cats in Australia kill 390 million animals per year, i.e. more than 1 million animals per day. Cats are a major cause of extinctions of 25 of the 34 Australian mammal species lost since 1788. That's why
Councillor Hallett, are you coming to a conclusion because you've had 3 minutes?
That's why I think it's beyond time for us to start doing something about cats. At the moment, we are unable to
Councillor
track
Hallett,
cats.
have to stop.
Okay.
Sorry. You can reserve any other commentary till you're summing up at the end. You get another chance to speak. Right. Do I have a seconder for the motion as it now stands? Councillor Jennings, would you like to speak now?
I'll reserve my right.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Councillor Dawes.
Yes, there's been a number of email exchanges between Councillor Haddett and Mr Cooper. And the one from Mr Cooper, which I want to read out now, I think is the most important. State consultation is underway for cat management, and part of the survey asked respondents for their opinion of what regulations they want in their area. These results are anticipated to be shared with each council as part of the consultation reporting. Consultation closes the 4th of September. Councils are encouraged to consider cat bylaws for their area, as this is an important part of informing the government about statewide cat management. So there will be, in response to number 3 there is, via the state government, a consultation process. I've always said in this council that the statewide for cat management is the best way to go. I said to Mr Cant before the meeting started, I can just imagine the cat crossing McGill Road, going from Kensington Gardens into Tranmere and thinking, oh, there's a new bylaw in Campbelltown compared to Burnside. I must do something a bit different. And that's why the state government has always said, I know it's taken them a long time, and I'm as frustrated as probably Councillor Haddett is as how long it's taken, but it's a difficult issue. And I don't want us to go ahead without understanding what the state government feels and what the survey produces. Thank you.
Councillor Davey.
Thank you, Mayor. I think this is a major cop-out. I think we only have to read the community consultation, what our community is telling us about us having to manage cats as we manage dogs. We do dog management wonderfully in Burnside. We've got all the resources and everything. But in terms of cat management, for all the years I've been on council, we've been hearing, yes, the government are going to do put controls in. And I think this is just a major cop-out. We have, you would have all received today an email to Dimitar Uzalek from Anne G, who is the Dog and Cat Management Secretariat person, who acknowledges, she sent us a diagram of the legislative reform process, and which is still at the beginning. Council should continue with business as usual, which includes having a plan of management relating to dogs and cats to communicate to the community's council's priorities for dog and cat management for the next 5 years. Well, our management plan doesn't include anything about cats, nothing new at all. And she finally finishes it by saying, I acknowledge there is consultation underway for cat management, and part of the survey asks respondents their opinion of what regulation they want in their area. I anticipate these results will be shared with each council as part of the consultation reporting. This closes on the 4th of September. I encourage councils to consider cat bylaws for their area, as this is an important part of informing the government about statewide cat management. So that's from the Dog and Cat Management Board itself. We're just copping out. I appreciate Councillor Hallett's motion, but it doesn't go anywhere near far enough. And even just having a briefing session, what's that going to tell us? More of the same that we've heard for the last 10 years. We've got to take some action. We're actually surrounded by councils, Adelaide Hills, Campbelltown, Mitcham and Tea Tree Gully, which are developing a bylaw, which have had the courage to develop and implement a cat bylaw. Our own community consultation process requested we stop the differential treatment of cats and dogs in the management plan, which is silent on cat management, improve wildlife protection and enforce and regulate pet ownership in Burnside. So there have been many very thoughtful submissions made to us by our council, but the draft management plan is totally inadequate, and I just think we need to defer this and do some more work and start to introduce a cat bylaw. We can do this work as well as the status quo, but we've got to start somewhere. We've got to start better managing our cats in Burnside, because we're surrounded by councils that are starting to do this and do it well, and we're the odd ones out. So I hope you'll vote this down.
Councillor Jones.
Can I ask a question? Can we send our rangers out to shoot or poison feral cats and foxes?
I could say the answer is no.
Through your worship, I was reasonably confident and I've just had it confirmed. No.
So can I ask a second follow-up question? So do we have any powers to do anything about feral cats or foxes?
We do actually.
No.
We do, and we have had, yeah.
Through the chair, we do have the ability to trap unowned and feral cats. The issue we have currently with the Dog and Cat Management Act is we're unable to trap owned cats, and if we do trap a cat that doesn't have a collar, we're unable to know if that is an actual owned cat until we scan it for a microchip. And if it does have a microchip, then we're in breach of the Act. So until the state government makes that particular change, we're pretty much hamstrung.
Councillor Jones?
You're
finished now, for now? All right. Councillor Davey, you're next.
A follow-up question. Thank you. Thank you. Just following up that statement, what do other councils do when they trap cats under their cat bylaws, and how do they manage that in terms of cat control?
Through the chair, several years ago, the Marion Council attempted to create a bylaw where they proposed to do exactly that, and the state government threw out that bylaw because it didn't. that they didn't have the provision to be able to do that. My understanding is that other councils, some councils that I've spoken to, are chancing it and trapping cats that they believe to be feral in the hope that they're not owned cats, and if they appear to be owned cats, then they're just releasing them on the spot, which again is falling foul of the Dog and Cat Management Act.
Councillor Jennings.
Oh, thank you.
Have you got your... Oh, okay. I'll let Councillor Jennings go first.
Question for administration. Are the rangers able to scan the cat where they've caught them on the street, or do they have to come back to the depot? Because I know that trapping and catching a cat that doesn't want to be caught is incredibly difficult. Thank you.
Yeah, through the chair, the system that we had up until effectively we stopped trapping cats was that we would trap them in cages, we would take them to our local vet, and the vet would undertake that process for us as professional cat handlers.
Councillor Davey.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a follow-up question in terms of the recommendation that we got today that was sent to us all by Martin Cooper, the Director, and the email that I cited this morning from Anne G of Dog and Cat Management. How does the administration propose to take their advice or work with their advice, which is to consider cat bylaws for their area? So how is the City of Burnside administration going to work with the Cat and Management Board on that advice, please?
Well, through the chair, I think the recommendation is that we wait until the process, until the Dog and Cat Management Board and the state government finalise the recommendations, and then from there we put some recommendations to council in regards to the potential for a bylaw.
Councillor Jones, another question?
Another question. Do domestic cats, by maintaining their territories, restrict the range of feral cats in suburban Adelaide?
Through the chair, there has been a lot of research around that. I'm not an expert on that, in that space, but I believe there is some research that lends itself to that theory.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak or ask a question? No, we've got to go. Councillor Jones.
Yeah, look, sorry, I'll speak against this motion. Fools rush in where angels fear to tread. Wildlife protection is the responsibility of the state government or the Commonwealth government. We really shouldn't be meddling in this because we don't have the powers to do anything at the moment. And I think, and there's a lot of evidence, that meddling will make things worse. If you want to get rid of feral cats or foxes, one, that would be very difficult. It's been done on a few islands of the Australian coast, but to do it on mainland Australia would be an heroic task. And we'd have lots of rangers and they'd be armed to the teeth, and I still don't think they'd manage it, because every time we wiped out feral cats in Burnside, they'd come in from elsewhere. Domestic cats serve a very great benefit to wildlife in that they maintain territories and they stop feral cats moving in from the hillside into suburban Adelaide, because the feral cats face a barrier of domestic cats defending their territories. And you cannot tell me that domestic cats kill more native animals than feral cats do, because feral cats need to eat and domestic cats do not need to hunt to eat. I've had cats all my life, and only a tiny percentage of cats, domestic cats, hunt. This is something we should not be meddling with. We're only going to make the situation worse if we come up with some, oh, cats are horrible, we've got to protect the rats and the mice. It's a bad idea. Leave it for the state government. The state government's working on it. We don't have to rush in just because we feel that we ought to be doing something. Let's confine ourselves to what the responsibilities the state government's actually given us and stop spending more money stupidly on things that will only make things worse.
Councillor Wilkins?
Yes, I will say something. I note that Councillor Davey pointed out Angie's letter to me. The consultation they require closes the 4th of September. I presume that staff are putting together something that we can put forward to the government, and that's what we should be doing. I would also add, by the way, that I think foxes in the urban areas are a bigger problem altogether. And I've actually seen, after council one night, a fox heading down Elizabeth Street eastward, 11:30 at night. Now, if foxes should not be in the urban areas, a meeting at the Botanic Gardens, fox was in after the meeting, 10:30. I even pointed it out to the director of the Botanic Gardens. Yes, there are foxes that come in via the river. So not only cats, but feral cats and feral foxes. We also need to address that problem, I think, because so many people are losing their jocks. Thank you.
No one on the screen, so Councillor Cornish just snuck in.
I'm considering an amendment, Your Worship. Conducts an information session or briefing session after the results of the state government survey have been publicised.
I'm okay with that as an amendment as long as Councillor Hallett and
Or
Councillor...
that would be a variation.
Sorry? Oh, as a variation? It was Councillor Jennings, wasn't it? Are you happy with that, Councillor Hallett?
Just say that...
Just putting a timing on it.
So the variation, if it's a variation, but I'm happy to try and run it for an amendment, although I think everyone's pretty much talked, so I might not get a seconder. But it's that to conduct the information session or briefing session after the state government has released this survey result findings publicly. So we actually have that, we have the information session on a CAT bylaw after we've got that information.
Well, that's...
Are you okay with that?
No.
It's like an addition. Okay, you're not. All right.
I'm
Then
happy
it has be
to
an
run it
amendment.
as an amendment
Right.
then.
Can I say why I'm not...
No.
No need to.
No. You're running it as an amendment?
Yes, thank you.
Right, and so we'll wait for it to go up and then I'll seek a seconder for the amendment.
I'll speak to it while that's happening. I'm not adverse to us going down the bylaw path for CAT management, but I do think that we need some state guidance here, and I think it's fruitless us doing it now because we're just going to get the information that we've currently got. That, you know, the laws aren't there to give us the powers. You know, we're in this weird loophole, and I think we actually need some of that steer from the state government first, so there's no point us having a briefing session to hear the information that we've already got, that we're pretty much hamstrung, unless we're wanting to break the law. And golly, do we know how our residents like taking us to court when this council breaks the law or traps a dog, because it's wandering the streets. They'll take us to court to the nth degree over a leaf falling on their property. So no, I say that in jest. Look, I think that we should do a briefing after the survey results have been publicly released, and that's the amendment I'm seeking a seconder for.
Is there someone willing to second that amendment?
Yes.
All right, thank you, Councillor Wilkins. Do you wish to speak?
I think we should wait until there is further information from the survey. So we can...
You've already
I've
spoken,
spoken already.
yes. So we need somebody who has not spoken to second.
I'm happy to second. Mayor.
Councillor Zing?
You can second an amendment, can't you? If you've spoken before.
I don't believe so, but let's just
We'll check. We have a seconder anyway if it falls through. What I'll do is,
we do have a second up.
yeah, we've got a seconder, so, but we can still check the rules, as Councillor Jones has asked, and get back to us on that, but I think we've got a seconder, so we can move on with that. So this is anyone who has not spoken. Oh, no, we start again now, yeah. Everyone can speak now, because it's an amendment, okay. So, on this,
Including the after state government.
yes, we're just adding this to the previous, yeah.
So that's all you can talk to. Just
So we're talking only to this amendment, not to the rest, okay? Councillor Hallett.
Oh, yes, I want to speak against the amendment. If you look at the state government's website, there is really substantial information. There's a briefing paper available on there about what the proposed changes are. There's the proposed changes. There's a frequently asked question which very clearly sets out what the direction they're aiming to go in. So they've gone to consultation with it, but they actually know where they're going with the direction. We've got enough information to actually write the bylaw now. I think let's just go. They're not going to. They'll only refine things a little bit, and so they really think. And you can anyone can fill in the questionnaire, and if you fill it in, the questions are all aimed at how they're actually going to implement controlling of the cats. So I recommend that you get online, fill in the survey, and you'll see that there's lots of information already on there.
Thank you. Yes, now we've got the answer.
Through your worship, I'd like to thank Councillor Jones for his continued testing of my knowledge of the meeting practice, but I can confirm that amendments to motions, a member who has not spoken to a motion at an earlier stage of the debate may move or second an amendment to the motion. So you cannot have talked previously.
Is there anyone else now who wishes to speak on the amendment? I have no one at this stage, so shall I go back to you, Councillor Cornish?
No, you don't.
No, you can't. You just we go straight to move it, don't I? To it. Okay, so we're voting on this amendment. So those in favour of the amendment, please raise your hands. Right, those against? Councillor 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's a 5 again, is it? No, it can't be right. Yeah, 5-4, okay. All right. Well, I actually support the amendment. So the casting vote goes in favour of including the amendment. I do think the state government needs to make a decision and we do need to follow that. So the amendment becomes the motion. And now we can just wait till that's all included in one. If there's anyone who, once this is up, if there's anyone who has not yet spoken, and I think that's only Councillor Zing and Councillor Turnbull, if they wish to speak. If they do not wish to speak, if their name doesn't come on the screen, then I will be going back to the original mover of the motion, which was Councillor Hallett. Right, Councillor Hallett.
Thank you. I just want to make it really clear that we're not collecting feral cats at the moment. We don't collect them out of our reserves or parks. They've got free range. The Dog and Cat Management Board has suggested to councils to use as a stopgap measure, if you like, a bylaw mechanism until such time as the Act is finalised. whether or not you're going to get your results in at the end of the consultation period is unknown. It might take until mid next year before you actually get the changes. So I think, given the statistics, the time is long past to manage feral cats in our parks and reserves. And I just want to correct something Councillor Harvey-Jones said. Domestic cats do kill more wildlife than feral cats, and I'll send you the reference and studies to it, the science behind it. And it is cats and foxes. I agree with Councillor Wilkins that yes, foxes are a problem as well, and they are in the metropolitan area, but cats are right up there. So, and I'm happy to share, I've actually attached a lot of information today for people to read. The attachment is actually all the scientific data in summary in regard to what is actually happening. And it also says, Councillor Jones, that people that have domestic cats can't believe that their moggy is out killing birds and reptiles. And the proof of the pudding is in the science, and the science says yes, they are. So I would urge you to, that it's time that we actually did something. All the other councils around us are, and we need to actually now get on board and get feral cats out of our parks and gardens.
I'll put the motion. Those in favour of this motion, in front of you, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those against? 5 again. Okay, I'm going to support this motion as it stands, and so the motion is carried. Division's been called, so those who voted for, please raise your hands. That's Councillor Zing, Wilkins, Jennings, Hallett, Cornish and Mayor Monceau. Those against, no, keep your hands up please. Those against, Councillor Davey, Councillor Jones, Councillor Dawes, Turnbull and Harvey. Did you get those all down? So the motion is carried. Now we move to the next one, which is 11.5, Councillor Cornish, page 136, the call for nominations for Garrick. Councillor Hallett, turn your mic off, please.
Thank you, Worship. Since I've only got one nomination for a member from Garrick from this council, which is your Worship, your name has been added and I'll move that motion.
I'm just checking to make sure I don't have to declare a conflict of interest since I've just been named. Right, no, so I don't have to declare. There's no money for this at all. Time. I seek a seconder. Sorry. Oh, sorry. Did you wish to speak to it, Councillor?
No, I can sum up.
You didn't say anything,
no.
So I just was.
It's procedural.
Wishes to speak, then I shall. No, Councillor Daly. No, sorry, Councillor Dawes is first.
Yes. Now, my memory tells me that on 3 occasions we have nominated people for Garrock. I think twice former Councillor Pickett and once Councillor Lemon, and they all failed because all the other nominations, practically all the other nominations, were mayors. So if we said this in a recent meeting, we were upset with Garrick as regards the freight bypass. And we said at that time, we need to be involved. If we want to have a voice at the table, that's the only way we can do it. And from where I sit, the mayor has the best possibility of getting a voice at the table.
Councillor Davey.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. I received an email today from Councillor Cornish, and you were talking about Mayor Jane Lomax-Smith from Adelaide City Council. Sorry?
That's the next motion, not this one.
Oh, for Garrick. I beg your pardon. Thank you.
Councillor Turnbull.
Thank you. I just want to ask a question. How does belonging to Garrock aid the City of Burnside? How does it help us?
We have not had a voice on Garrock from the City of Burnside for 6 years. And in fact, I think it's even longer than that. And as a result, sometimes when we've had issues to go to, Garrock is the governing board for the local, metropolitan local government organisation. So therefore, any motions, any decisions that are made by that board that are represented currently from 4 different sectors, the east, west, north and south, decisions are made by that group. Now, the largest group of councils are actually in the eastern region. There are 6 councils. All other council areas only have 2 or 3 or 4 max. And it means that because Burnside's never had a voice on that, we are not listened to. We have to either have an issue, and it's voted on currently by Tea Tree Gully, Campbelltown and Unley. And none of those currently are mayors. And one of the issues that Garrock is having, and Sarrock as well, is the issue of mayors needing to be the people who are representing, because they are the ones who can make decisions on behalf of their councils. And so the important aspect of it, originally I was not intending to even consider it, but I am accepting the nomination because Garrock needs to change. Local government association needs to change. And the way to change it is from within. And so that's why I am accepting this nomination. Councillor Davey.
Oh, thanks. Thanks, Mayor. Part of our standing orders is that you present a rationale to us if we're looking at electing people to bodies or boards or whatever. Those who are standing present a rationale to council as to what their credentials are and why we should support them for this role. Can you please do that tonight?
I don't think I need to do that unless, of course, there's somebody who wishes to stand against me. And I think I have given you the rationale. Apart from that, I do believe that Burnside needs a voice. I did actually stand 6 years ago for Garrock, and at that point in time, because the votes are spread across 6 different councils, 2 of us ended up with 2 votes each. That was the Mayor of Walkerville and myself. And because we only had 2 votes each, because they're voted upon by all the 6 councils within the district or within the area, it meant that those 2 names went into a hat, and one name was withdrawn from the hat, and that was the Mayor of Walkerville, who actually got a position for that period of time. So I do believe that I need to put my hand up to stand for the local area, and I would, if I am elected, and I won't be elected by you alone, the persons will be elected by the 6 councils who represent that region. But most importantly, there needs to be some changes to that regional structure of Garrock. It isn't working. None of the metropolitan mayors are particularly happy with the structure, and that was a structure that was placed upon us by the Mayor of Prospect at the time, David, I've forgotten his name now, Lachlan, and in discussions with all of the Garrock, with the other mayors are wanting to make changes of the structure of Garrock, and as a result of, if I am elected to that, I will like to be part of that structural change and recommendations for change, because it needs to be changed to move forward, and issues to do with the local government association as well, if that's sufficient. Councillor Turner.
Another question, please. Could you give an example of an issue as why we needed to be on Garrock that didn't work or something?
Well, yes, the first one that Councillor Jones has just mentioned, and that's the one about the freight. They completely ignored us. They took absolutely no notice and never even got discussed at Garrock. It got stopped before it even got a chance. And that freight issue is a massive issue. It's a major issue, not just for our council, for Mitcham, for Unley, for Nord, Payneham St Peters, for Campbelltown, for Walkerville, for Port Adelaide, Enfield, and I've missed somebody, Nord, Payneham St Peters. So it's a major issue and they chose to ignore it. Absolutely didn't even discuss it or debate it. Councillor Jones. Sorry, Councillor Jones.
Look, I have to say, I think both Garrock and the LGA are a waste of space, as proven by their failure to take the issue of trucks on Portrush Road seriously. But to be honest, they're just pointless. We can lobby state and federal governments directly and quite effectively. And some of us went to James Stevens' forum on Saturday, where we had the Shadow Infrastructure Minister come and speak. And that's all being done by Burnside people speaking to state and federal people directly. And I really see no need for us to be reliant on the intervention of these non-entities. Frankly, let's just show our contempt for them, don't put any nominations up, don't vote in their elections, and go directly to the decision makers with the money. So look, whilst I support the Mayor, it is not personally against the Mayor, it's against the institution of Garrock.
If there's no one else wishing to speak, I'll go back to Councillor Cornish.
Thank you. I do hope you support the motion. Yes, the Mayor, if elected, would be able to represent some Burnside views and hopefully some other views from the eastern suburbs of Adelaide. I personally put value in local governments sticking together and coming together for a common goal and actually, fighting our parents, basically, that hold all the purse strings in this country, and saying that something's not right. And we can only do that together rather than individually, because as we've learnt in the past, when you're just a little lone soldier standing out there, you don't get much done and you can go pretty much nuts doing it. So let's work together and let's try and get some things happening for this state and in the eastern suburbs. Thanks.
I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Motion's carried. Thank you. We'll move to 11.6, nominations for LGA President.
Thank you, Worship. I have also reached out to the Lord Mayor of Adelaide, who would like to be nominated for this, being one of the eligible candidates. And given the proximity to the City of Adelaide, I think nominating the Lord Mayor to potentially be the LGA President, or at least in the running to be the LGA President, might actually redirect and re-steer that institution into a better position than it currently is. So I hope someone seconds the motion and we can get this happening.
Councillor Davey, you wishing to second?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I'm more than happy to second this and endorse Councillor Cornish's words.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Councillor Jones.
Yeah, look, I'm going to speak against this. Firstly, refer to my speech of 2 minutes ago. Secondly, this is totally bizarre, this nomination. Why are we nominating the Mayor of Adelaide? If we look at our grouping in Garrock and the LGA, we're in the eastern region, of which there are two people. There's the Councillor Leon Bruno from Campbelltown, and there's Councillor Palmer from Unley. So if we wanted to nominate someone to represent us, it should be someone from the eastern region, not someone from the capital city. Their interests have no bearing on our interests. They're interested in completely different things. You know, they're a capital city. Let's be honest, they're about to borrow $300 million. Are these people we want to be associated with? Perhaps they'll, you know, try and load us up with $300 million to share the burden. They're already complaining that people from Burnside use the parklands. Look, I think this is wholly misconceived, and I won't be voting for it.
Councillor Dawes.
I have to agree with Councillor Jones. I personally believe that we should not be contacting a mayor of another council asking if they wish to stand. You know, I just feel as though it should be the Adelaide City Council that should be nominating the Lord Mayor, not ourselves. That's my belief. I don't know anything about Councillor Lomax-Smith. I've met Don Palmer. I haven't met the lady from Campbelltown. So my opinion is based really on whether I know anybody. And if I don't know anybody, I say we should nominate nobody. So simple as that. I don't know them. I know I've seen Jane Lomax-Smith in the media and so forth. I don't know if she'd be a very, very good president of Garrock. But let Adelaide City Council make that call.
Can I just clarify, this is not the leader of Garrock. This is actually the state president. That is the person who represents the local government association, both regional and metropolitan, at national conferences. They are the media representative, the spokesperson for the whole of South Australia's local government sector. So it is an incredibly important position. Councillors are correct, we do not actually have to do a nomination, but we've invited to nominate, as other councils will also be asked to nominate. And so and this is not a final decision. In any case, decision will be made when each of the contenders who are nominated come back to us and seek a vote, one vote, that we will then have to choose based on whoever nominates and accepts the nominations from all of the councils in metropolitan Adelaide. Now, it has to be someone in the metropolitan area because the LGA presidency takes turns. Last turn, it was Dean Johnson, who is a regional, he's Mayor of Kimber, and he was the regional representative. So now it is the turn of metropolitan. So the only rule is it must be someone, a mayor, who has been on Garrock and has yes, they have to be a mayor. There are rules for this, I think. Anyway, look, doesn't matter. No, they have to be on Garrock. That's right. Apologies, they have to be on Garrock. And but I think at this stage, I'm aware of at least another 3 mayors who will be running for this position. So the real decision is going to be made later. You will have another, bite of the cherry when it comes to actually voting for those who contend from those contenders. So, Councillor Wilkinson.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I'm actually happy to support Jane Lomax-Smith in this particular position, running for this position. You hear her on radio all the time, actually promoting the city of which we are a big part of this city. And not only that, she's across it all. She can meet the government and argue against the government as well, and hopefully for all of us in local government. I also remember the day when Jane Lomax-Smith was the person who actually put Davar House on the corner of South Terrace and Hutt Street on the local heritage register. Saved that house from being demolished. It was under the previous Labor government, Weatherall and Rao regime. So I thank Jane Lomax for that particular action, because you look at that house today and it is just fantastically restored and being repurposed and reused, and a significant asset to the entrance to Hutt Street in the city. So yes, I do support and thank Councillor Cornish for this action. Thank you.
Councillor Cornish, do you wish to speak again?
No, I'm fine.
Then I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? The motion's carried. Division's been called. So those who voted yes, could you please raise your hands? Councillor Jennings, Wilkins, Davey and Zing. Councillor Cornish and Hallett. Those against, Councillor Jones, Councillor Dawes, Councillor Turnbull and Councillor Harvey. So the motion was carried. So move to 11.8, page 170, and that's Councillor Harvey.
Thank you, Mayor.
The Chief Executive's report.
There is a typo on page 185 where it says community consultation, dogs on leash control, Kensington Park Preschool. It's actually Kensington Gardens Preschool. Thank you.
Sorry, what was the page reference again?
Page 185.
Okay, thank you. Are you moving this motion? Are you moving to accept the report? Okay, thank you. And you've made that correction. Did you have anything else you wish to ask or say? All right, then Councillor Davey, it's your turn.
I wish to move an amendment, if I may. Does someone else need to second?
Oh, sorry, we need a seconder first. I thought you were seconding. I need a seconder. Councillor Zing? Would you hold off your speaking? Okay. Now, Councillor Davey.
Thank you, Mayor. I wish to move all of the recommendations and number 4, the council receives an A4 size table of all City of Burnside master plans, comma, summarising their progress, costs, etc., and receives this as a report each March, June, September and December. And that's what I mean by an A4. I don't mean I just mean a simple summary, because the issue is that we've got a whole range of wonderful range of master plans that we're working on, and we don't have an opportunity to look at a glance and see where they're at, and whether we're applying for funding, whether the project is reaching an end, what it incorporates. And so to have one of those, and we have been accused of putting in extra requests for work when we have master plans on. So it would really help, certainly speaking for myself, me focus on what we've currently got on and whether what you wanted to move or initiate fits into those master plans already. And one of the issues that is a major one for us in our ward is traffic management. So it's knowing where they're at, where they're up to and where they're going. I'll just review. Summarising their progress, comma, costs, etc. I'm just helping because this process takes so long and it isn't immediate for us.
Can I just, Councillor Davey, interrupt a moment? I'd seek from Councillor Harvey and from Councillor Zing as to whether they would be accepting of that as an addition or whether we do have to go formally to an amendment. If you're happy to accept that, Councillor Harvey, as an addition to the motion, and you are also Councillor Zing, then we can include it in the motion without going through a formal amendment.
I'm happy to accept.
If that's okay with governance as well. Yeah. Okay. All right. So now you can continue, Councillor.
Thank you. Perhaps if I just clarify, as a report in the CEO's report, as part of the CEO's report. I don't know if that's evident, but thank you. No, and it's just, this is the format we use for our Register of Authorised Officers. We already do these sort of simple tables which you can expand to with all of the master plans, and we can just see at a glance each quarter which ones we've got and where they're at, and what funding we've got, and all of that. So it's just a summary, a very quick summary, which would really help us with our deliberations. Other people have mentioned it in the past. I thought I would just ask for that as a formal document every quarter. So hopefully you'll support that. Thank you.
Councillor Hallett.
I've got a question for the administration. I note in the CEO's report the letter from the Minister in regard to bollards. And my question to administration is, do you agree that there are existing legislation structures to address bollard protection? I actually thought when I read his letter that I don't think he mentioned about wheel stops, and wheel stops have not worked, stopping cars going through the windows at Arundel Shopping Centre. We had another one go through just recently, went through the chemist shop. Luckily nobody was at the counter because it demolished the counter. Basically the Minister's suggesting that we can use the planning code, we can use our development applications, we can use CAP, and we can use the current road traffic management policy to force people to install bollards. And I don't think that's not the impression I have, that we can use those to make developers or shop owners install bollards, or centre owners to install bollards.
Through your worship, there's quite a bit in that. We may have to take some of that on notice and provide you with a detailed response to do that. I will ask Dimitar whether he has any initial opinions on whether we believe we have sufficient perimeters in place to actually achieve what we're looking to achieve, but I will caveat that we will take it on notice and provide you a more detailed response.
Sorry, through the chair, I believe we do have the parameters in place. I think a lot of it is specifically dependent on traffic advice as to whether, from a traffic engineer, as to whether they are required. But in all instances, but I do believe that we do have the parameters in place.
Councillor Dawes, can you just turn your microphone off, Councillor Hallett?
Yes, look, I have to make a comment on page 177, paragraph 34. I hope you all read it. I think this was the previous council, it could have been this council, but the Winchester Lane. And I know that the administration keeps saying to us that with traffic management it needs to be holistic. And here we had Winchester Lane. I went down it and I'm thinking, you know, why are we making it one way? And then here we are, you know, that 1 year later we're going to go back to what it was. So I just ask that we keep in tune with having traffic management plans for all of our wards, all of our suburbs. Don't do things on the side, because we're going to go back to what it was before. And this is the perfect example of Winchester Lane.
Councillor Davey.
Thank you, Mayor. Just on the question that, in respect of Councillor Hallett's query about the bollard protection and the constant rate of cars going through shoppers, dining precincts, and even worse, as in the Arundel Chemist on the weekend, right through the wall. We have a road and traffic management policy which is currently up for renewal. Can we include provisions and all of the recommendations that were recommended by Minister Champion in that traffic management policy so that we get better protection for our buildings, outside diners and associated?
Through your worship, I'll certainly take that on board, and I'll review the policy in question, whether it's that policy or another policy. I'll have to determine exactly where it best fits, but we are conscious of Council's position on this and also the response that we received, so we will certainly refer to that and we'll report back.
Thank you.
There's no one left on the screen, so I'm
Sorry.
going back to Councillor Harvey.
Sorry, I have another question.
No, sorry, you've got another question, Councillor Davis.
Sorry, just to, in relation to our budget deliberations and the fact that we decided that we would have a service review of all of our services, undertake a service review, I just wondered what planning is going into that, how we will have input into it, and when that process is going to start, please.
Through your worship, I believe the corporate team have actually started the commencement process of planning that body of work. And what I will do, I'll take that on notice and I'll either provide an information document or further advice in the next CEO report that provides all of that information.
Right, now, Councillor Harvey, do you wish to speak again? I can put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Motion's carried. But I'm up to the floor to determine whether or not we take a break now for 10 minutes and then come back to the motion on notice, or whether we do the motion on notice straight away and then finish. Happy to push on? Okay, I'm happy to push on as well. Questions on notice, as you know, 2 have been answered and 2 can be resubmitted. The motion on notice 13.1. Page 208, Councillor Jones.
Colleagues, look, I want to make clear that I support the differential rating for vacant land. When the idea was introduced by former Councillor Carbone, I voted for it, and I actually instigated the increase from 200% to 250%. So I'm very much in favour of the principle that we penalise people or discourage people from leaving blocks vacant, which really does annoy neighbours. But at the same time, I've listened to Mr Barker's story and I think we should cut him some slack. As I mentioned before, I first met him in 2020 when he bought the property at the end of Laurel Avenue, and 4 years later he's still trying to build a house. He bought the property, he ran into COVID, and then he ran into his tree root problem, trying to protect 2 significant trees. Now he's running into the shortage of tradesmen. He could have left the house derelict to be occupied by rats and squatters if he'd known about the vacant land policy, and we're not allowed to rate derelict properties higher. He demolished it in good faith, thinking, one, not knowing about the policy, despite the fact he told council he was going to demolish the house. We didn't tell him. And secondly, he is trying to build, and I'm convinced of that. The issue we have with the policy, and I voted for the policy, is that it allows no discretion to staff to say, well, actually, yes, we believe you're building a house. It says, if you put the footings in, yes, building has commenced, you can get the rebate, otherwise, no. So what I'm saying is, well, that's a bit black and white, probably didn't think about it when we passed it. We should review that during the course of the year to see whether we can come up with something better. Now, We've talked about this Campbelltown thing. We don't necessarily have to do that. All I'm saying is during the course of this year, let's review the policy, see if we can improve it. But in the meantime, can we give him some slack on his rates bill for last year? It cost about $6,000. I know I'm going on about spending, and I've immediately breached my first rule of introducing new spending every single council meeting. But I genuinely think in this case it is a good cause. Cut the guy some slack. By next year, he'll have built his house and there won't be a problem. And look, to be honest, most people buying land in Linden Park, 2 blocks, would have put 6 houses on it. And he's building 1 family home. We should give him a medal and grant him this rate relief.
Councillor Cornish.
Happy to second the motion, Your Worship, and I thank Councillor Jones for bringing up the fact that he has broken his first cardinal rule of the first meeting after the budget, bringing something to here that's going to cost our ratepayers. So thank you for acknowledging that. But I can see that in this particular instance, it is a little unfair on this one resident, and if it has to come to the chamber, it has to come to the chamber. Yeah, he's come to the chamber tonight as well and explained himself quite well. So I am happy to support this motion.
Councillor Davey.
Thank you, Mayor. I understand everything that's been said and I'm very sympathetic. I just wonder what the implications are if we set this precedent. What are the implications for other claims to be made?
Through Your Worship, I'll have a first crack at it, and if my team would like to add anything, that's fine. Ultimately, you are making a decision that is contradictory to your current policy, which Council is willing to do. Council administration will continue to manage the policy as per Council direction. In terms of precedent and likelihood of it proceeding again, anything that is contradictory to Council's policy will come to Council, and it would be then up to the Chamber to decide based on the current circumstances. So it doesn't automatically mean that it opens the floodgates. It may open up the doors for people asking the question, but then in the absence of changing your policy, Council will make those decisions.
Any questions or comments? Councillor Wilkins.
I recall when I thought it was Councillor Piggott who actually introduced the double tax on vacant land when people were land banking and not actually doing anything with vacant land. This gentleman appears to be asking us for assistance for all the right reasons, as far as I'm concerned. He is building a single-storey house for his family. He's been through the COVID, he's been through all the other ramifications of the building industry at this time. And I actually happen to agree with Councillor Jones. I think we should actually give him some slack, grant him some slack at this time, and give him the 50% discretionary rebate at this time so he can get on and finally build the family home that he's been planning to do. And we have a family again in the eastern suburbs. So I support this motion.
Councillor Dawes.
Yes, I feel uneasy, I have to say, with this one. I'm sorry, Councillor Jones and Councillor Cornish. It's one of the rare motions that in my nearly 6 years in council where we've talked about one resident. And I do worry about precedents, Councillor Davey, I have to say here. And through the questions that we asked of Mr Barker tonight, you know, my son has just built a home in Woodford, and you know, he had a fixed price contract, you know, like, so I just can't believe that he demolished his home and then he changed his mind on the design and so forth, and now he finds it's going to cost too much. He has removed 2 trees. He probably would have picked that up, and now the land is denuded of anything. In fact, there's still a big pile of dirt at the front of the house, so he hasn't completely cleared the land. It is unfortunate as to what's happened. I don't know, this is a hard case we talked about in the past where someone can't pay rates, and we do have clauses that do enable them to pay it over time, and perhaps I would suggest that. I did check that if he had his house termite free, it would cost about $3,500, and we are, through what Councillor Jones has put forward, is $3,300 is what we're going to give him. So he could have, thinking always in hindsight, he could have rented out this house and got back his money and so forth. So he's had a bad situation. I agree with that, but I do worry about precedents, and I can just see that door opening for so many other residents and developers, if you want to call them that. Not this guy, but even, I'm thinking as I'm going, but even if we give him some sort of relief, but I just can't agree with 50%.
Councillor Davey?
Thank you, Mayor. I have a question. What guarantee is it that the trees will be saved on this property?
I'll have to take on notice with to the specificity of the actual trees itself. However, if they are protected, regulated, then they would have to go through the appropriate DA process, which would be consideration of tree removal of a regulated species. Other than that, that's the best protection that we have in place for these private trees.
Councillor Zing?
Thank you, Mayor. We've got a few existing policies in place around, which is what Councillor Dawes mentioned around hardship. I suspect he would qualify for hardship rebate or hardship assistance.
Through the worship, I don't believe he does, but I'll get the team to clarify that.
Through the Chair, at this stage we have no evidence nor a request from the ratepayer for any financial hardship assistance at this time.
Councillor Jones? Councillor Hallett?
I'll just ask a question, please, of Councillor Dawes. I thought you said that the trees had been removed, so that... So have the trees been removed?
Through your worship, I've only got the information in front of me just now, so I haven't been able to have a look at it myself. If Councillor Dawes assures me that they're gone and they're not regulated, then I'm sure they're gone. My answer to the question was what protections can be in place to retain trees on site, and the appropriate development approval and the protections over regulated trees would be the best mechanism.
Councillor Jones?
Question. This house has already got development approval, has it not? So any tree protection that's required has already been given.
Through your worship, I believe that development approval has been granted. I'm not privy to the actual specificity of the approval.
Councillor Turnbull?
Thank you. At the risk of sounding churlish, it really does set a precedent for other places, other people. And when he does build this house on this beautiful, enormous, valuable block, it'll be worth millions, multi-millions. So he's actually going to come out pretty well out of it anyway. So I'm being churlish and saying, no, don't let's do it.
Councillor Hallett, you got another question, or you can speak?
I wanted to speak, please. It's over a different issue, but it's in regard to setting a precedent. And what happened was a resident contacted me just recently. She had been given a parking offence, a ticket offence. She had been She's got stage 4 cancer, breast cancer. She's had lots of surgery, and the cancer has come back, and she's now having another round. She had been in the morning and had some chemo. When she was at home, she felt really ill. She needed to pick her daughter up from the Burnside Primary School. Asked a neighbour to...
I can see where you're going with this, but can you focus on
so
the concern
anyway,
about precedence?
the thing
that's
was
all.
that her neighbour drove her to the school. There were no parks left, so she dropped her at the bus stop while she got out and then went into the school, got her daughter, and in the meantime the neighbour drove around the block. She got a $200 fine. She's a single parent, and there's nothing that council would do for that. So that she just had to cough up. And that's where I think, like there are lots of stories and we show them no sympathy or understanding. And I thought that Mr. Barker presented as a genuine man who had faced extraordinary circumstances. But I think it seems like if you give to one but not to others.
Councillor Zing, your name was there? No? Okay. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Councillor Davey, got another question?
Just one question, thanks. Can I just clarify what the loss to council in revenue would be from this decision, please? Quite apart from the precedent, the revenue.
Through your worship, if you refer to the CEO comments, I believe page 210, number 2, if the motion's approved, the 50% discretion rebate would result in a credit of $3,316.93. Councillor Harvey, via email over the week, Councillor Jones, I apologise, clarified over the weekend that he's just looking for a review to the second part of the rating policy. Therefore, there would be no cost at the current time while the council undertakes the review.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Otherwise, I shall go back to Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Matt. Look, colleagues, I'm aware that there is a possibility of a precedent, but in my 6 years on council, this is the only time that anybody has approached me to get some relief in this case, and I'm not aware in 6 years on council of anybody else bringing an application for relief. So I think this is pretty rare. It cannot apply to developers because the policy clearly states it's only available if the council had determined that they think you will live in the house for at least a year following construction. Councillor Dawes has talked about bringing motions that benefit one resident. Well, he brought a motion to sell community land in Moorcroft Reserve to a resident, which was quite plainly not their land, it was council's land, but he made a case to say, well, this person thought it was their land and therefore we should sell it to them. Well, if that isn't giving one person a benefit that most people don't get, or that might set a precedent, I'd love to hear what isn't. And look, I agree too with Councillor Hallett about parking fines, but I have to say, in my experience, staff are actually quite good at giving relief for parking fines where there are extenuating circumstances. I've had numerous experiences where they have, so I don't think they're applying the rules hard and fast. I think they're actually pretty good at saying, no, well, that's fair enough, we'll tear out that fine. So, look, recognise the possibility. I seriously don't think it's a big issue. I think we need to cut him some slack. He's had 4 years trying to build his house, and I think the problem will resolve itself.
I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? The motion is carried. Before I close the meeting, I just wish to acknowledge sympathy to two residents. One is to the... Oh, sorry, thank you. Sorry, Councillor Dawes, did you have something you wanted to say first?
Yeah, could I just, before you do that, I have made an error tonight in that this might be for the next meeting, I've got to ask Mr Cant, but Mr Cooper wanted us to move, or not, he asked whether we wanted to move a motion, and I forgot to do it in relation to the dog and cat management plan. We all got the email from him, which was to declare land around Tusmore Pool. Now, we could do that for the next meeting. Yeah, so,
I think that can be
so
done
could I ask administration to put that on the agenda for the next meeting?
All right, I just wanted to ask to publicly acknowledge sympathy to the Bowley family at the loss of Mrs Betty, whose real name was Myra Bowley, aged 97, who was responsible for starting Burnside Women's Hockey Club in 1969 and continued to play a vital role in the club for many, many, many years. And the second person is to the Brooks family, the passing of Pat Brooks. Now, some of you may have known Pat. She taught ceramic sculpture and led the patchwork group for a number of years. She was also a local guide leader, and she had created the amazing copper frieze in St David's Anglican Church. So if you ever have been inside or get a chance to go inside and have a look at the copper frieze, it is a remarkable piece of artwork that is, and that church now has actually been placed on the State Heritage List, the new one. So I just wanted to acknowledge the passing of those two fine women who have been part of the history of the City of Burnside. And I will close the meeting at 9:16, and thank you for your participation.